Recording started. Now, I must admit that whenever I saw the agenda and it said that the November Professional Development Day was supposed to be focused on dropout prevention, I was thinking, great. This is a high school topic that we need to cover in the middle school just because it's part of our school improvement plan. But then I started doing the research on it, and I thought, wow, those poor high school folks, they have to do dropout prevention whenever it is so much a middle school topic, because really it's the middle school where the trends are established that we can identify who might be a potential dropout, and we can address it. By the time they're in the high school, it's too late. So this is really a middle school topic, and we'll go through what some of those key factors are to identify who's a potential future dropout and how you can prevent them from dropping out. So by the end of today's session, I want everyone to be able to identify the importance of dropout prevention early, meaning by 6th grade, we should, or starting in 6th grade, we should be able to recognize those factors and recognize the risk factors of middle school students who might drop out. And not just theoretical middle school students. I want us to look at our actual students and recognize which ones of these students are at risk, and then create action steps to address those actual at-risk students. And yeah, unfortunately, in our environment, Jessica, you might not be exaggerating a lot there, because we are a lot of times that step between dropping out and or leaving school and dropping out. They'll leave their brick and mortar school and go to our school instead of dropping out. So we have a lot of work to do, absolutely. All right. Well, Jessica, we don't want to think of it that way. We want to think of ourselves as lifesavers. Those students who are struggling in their traditional environment, and we're that step before them dropping out. That's a lot of responsibility on us, and we want to be there to take care of that. So what I want you to do first is, here's a link to a Google form. I want you to click on this link, open up this form, and there's going to be a list of questions there. And I want you to think through those questions, look through those questions before you start watching this video. And here is a video I want you to watch. So go ahead and look through those questions and then watch this video. I'll put about 20 minutes on the timer for this. And I'll put the links in chat too. All right. There's the link to the questions, and here's the link to the video.
Look at it and we say,
hey John, can you send that link to that video out? I lost connection and then I lost the video. Thank you.
Guys, if you are done with the video, take a few moments to complete the Google form, and we'll discuss it in about 5 minutes. Sorry, Lynn, I was busy looking through the great answers to the Google form and didn't see your request there. Hey guys, if you want to look at some of the other teachers' responses there, I put a link there so you should be able to view it. All right, let's go ahead and take a moment to share your ideas. Some of you, or a lot of you, have already submitted the Google form. That's one way to share your ideas. I'm also going to open up the whiteboard here to everybody so you can add your thoughts on the video and just your overall impression of the video. What's something that you took away from the video? You could also share in chat. So go ahead and share on the whiteboard or in chat or on the microphone. Go for it. What an overall impression? All right, lots of answers coming in on the whiteboard. Inspiring and reminds us of the opportunities we have to reach students. These are the faces of the students we are privileged to serve. I like that word, privileged there. We go that extra mile. We make the difference in a life. Yeah, we're middle school teachers. It said the middle school is the area that's most important, and that is us. So our students have a lot going on at home. Yeah, sometimes it's especially with the distance that we have, it's hard to know what they have going on at home, but it's a lot. Great reminder of the responsibility we have in these children's lives. We could be that one person to make a difference. Yeah, a lot of focus there on that Miss Miller. She made such a huge difference. We could be that Miss Miller. Good. Yeah, there are factors beyond our classroom. We like to have that perfect classroom, or we always like to be striving for that perfect classroom, knowing that there's no such thing as the perfect classroom. But there are factors outside the classroom that we have to be aware of too. Don't just look at the data, but do something with it. Absolutely. We could look at data all day long and not change anything unless we do something with it. Good. Yeah, shepherding. We need to be the good shepherd for our students. A good escalation process. Yeah, that's something that we need to consider during like our leadership meetings is what is our formal escalation process. Good stuff here. Thank you for sharing. All right, moving forward here. Here is a trend line from 1990 to 2011 of the graduation rate for public high school students. So go ahead and take a look at this graduation rate. What do you see? What's positive? What's concerning about this graduation rate? Yeah, this is nationwide. Agoras would look, well, Agoras wouldn't even start until we're about at this point here, and it would be quite a bit lower. Yep, slight uptick, but not much. And then concerning thing, yeah, it's pretty steady. It's a pretty steady increase there. It kind of goes down throughout the mid-90s and then it comes up again but it's pretty even throughout most of it. A slight increase. But what if I told you that by the year 2016, 2017, 90% of jobs are going to require at least a high school diploma? What'd that tell you? There you go, Corey. I love the positive thinking. All right. if 90% of the jobs by the are going to require a high school diploma, we're only, of course, it's 2011, 2012. I think we're a little bit higher than that now, but we're not close to 90% yet. We've got a real problem there nationwide. And as I said, Agora's rates are lower, significantly lower than the nationwide average. Part of that is a problem of how it's calculated, and I do want to share that with you because it is a struggle. The way that the graduation rates are calculated is they go by cohort, starting in 9th grade. So whenever you enter the 9th grade, you become part of a cohort. So for example, students entering the 9th grade this year become part of the 2020 cohort. They should graduate in the year 2020. Cohorts do not change when a student changes schools. So for example, if a student enters 9th grade at a Philadelphia school this year, they become part of the 2020 cohort. Let's say they fail 9th grade at that school. They're still part of the 2020 cohort. And let's say they enter Agora next year in the 9th grade. So they're entering Agora in the 9th grade in the 2016-2017 school year. They're still part of that 2020 cohort. So in order for the Agora to count them as graduating on time, Agora needs to get them from 9th grade to graduating in 3 years. So that's a struggle for, yeah, if it takes 5 years to graduate, they don't count. Even if the year that they failed isn't with our school. Even if they pass every single year with Agora, but they failed a year outside of Agora, it's a struggle. So that is a struggle, and our graduation rates show that. But we still need to work with the students that we have. Those students, we can't worry about the students who are failing at other schools. We need to make a difference with the students that we still have. And we still have, yeah, most of our students do still graduate on time. I don't know what it was last year. It's low though. Our graduation rate's not where it needs to be. So right. What's the important number for us at the middle school level is how many of our students are we sending to the high school that are prepared to graduate on time, and that's what we need to focus on at our level. So in the video there was they kind of hinted to these different factors, and these are the ABCs of identifying at-risk students. 1A is attendance. Are they attending school less than 80% of the time? And I know that's a struggle for us right now because we don't have ideal attendance data. Having better attendance data would certainly help, and I'm sure moving forward they're working on getting us better attendance data. But the A is attendance data. We need to know which students aren't showing up for class less than 80% of the time, or yeah, are showing up for class less than 80% of the time. Double negative there. I'm confusing myself. We need to know which students are showing up less than 80% of the time. We need to be aware of behavioral problems. And behavioral problems might look a little bit different in our environment than they do in brick and mortar environments. That doesn't mean we don't have behavioral problems. The fact that we were just talking about getting rid of Skype is a good indicator that yes, we do have some behavioral problems. We have some engagement problems that are related to behavior. So we need to be aware of those behavioral problems. These are good things to discuss during your PLC meetings. What are the behaviors that you're noticing? And finally, course failure, especially math and English. If a student is failing math or English as early as 6th grade, it's a sign that they might not graduate. So these are the ABCs that we need to work on. So A, attendance. attending school less than 80% of the time. What are things we can do to recognize this, either in chat or on the whiteboard or on the microphone? What can we do to help identify this? All right, take attendance so we're able to recognize it. If we don't have that actual attendance report, we can still do things on our own by keeping attendance. Aaron says keep a personal attendance log, actually take attendance, communicate with our team, which students are not being present. So during those PLC meetings, where he says, let the other, is it a trend? Is it just my class? Is it they just not like English, or are they not showing up at all? Yeah, we do have a struggle right now, and you guys are identifying it. What can we do to address this once that it's recognized? Because remember, we don't want to just stare at data all day. We want to do something about it. And we have holding kids and parents accountable for missing school, especially on a continual pattern basis. So we need an accurate report to do that. Show those students that that you notice they are not there. Yeah, just that little bit of, hey Heidi, I didn't see you in class yesterday. We missed you. Don't put them on the spot. Say, where were you at? But just say, oh, we missed you. Let them know that you notice those types of things. Let's see. Don't think somebody else is going to take care of it. Yeah, we have a team working with teachers. I once read a study where they had somebody with a flat tire sitting on the side of a back road, and they had somebody with a flat tire sitting on the side of a major highway, and they timed how long it took for somebody to stop and help the person with the flat tire. And on the back road, it wasn't very long. It was like the next vehicle that came along stopped and helped them. On the major highway, it took forever before somebody stopped, because they got into that attitude of somebody else will do it. When you're on the major highway, it's easy to think somebody else is going to stop and help them. Whenever there's a team of teachers involved for the student, it's easy to think somebody else is going to stop. But if everybody's thinking somebody else is going to do it, then it's easy for us to use that as an excuse not to do it ourselves. So you be the person. So somebody said, Laurie said, don't think somebody else has reported the MIA student. You report it. Yeah, do it. Holding a meeting with a supportive team. Escalate to family coaches or to admin. Tech issues. Know about how to report tech issues. Contacting the parent via email or phone call. Send emails to the parents or students. Good. We need reports from admin to help identify at-risk students. Yes, we need a good, solid attendance report, absolutely. We also have family coaches with whom we can work in addressing attendance issues, which mostly are highly connected to failing rates and lack of engagement in schools academics. So a lot of these ABCs are interconnected. If you're not coming to school, you're failing your math or English. If you're not coming to school, there are behavioral concerns there. Attendance is a behavior. So there's that. Behavior, okay. Receiving an unsatisfactory behavioral grade or demonstrated mild or sustained misbehavior. How can we recognize this in our environment? Go ahead, Nicole, take the mic.
So as far as behavior goes, the biggest issue that my team seems to be having is now that we have Hapara and we're able to see these websites these kids are on, it's opening this whole new window of, half our kids are watching Netflix and looking at YouTube videos and, doing lots of things that they really shouldn't be doing, and, we're taking snippets of it, and, my team is amazing, either they're in the middle of class or right after class, or they're on Hangouts, thank you, Lou. Even in the middle of class or right after class, my team is emailing the parent, the student, the family coach, CCing all of us and saying, I noticed that Timmy, was watching this YouTube video during class today and not paying attention. Can you please discuss the importance of, paying attention in class? And then when I've spoken to parents about it on the phone, their response to me is, well, why can't you block it? We don't have the ability to do that. If parents are telling me that the only way that they can get their kids to pay attention is to block things on the computer, that's concerning to me, because that tells me that they're not going to take the time to, stand behind their student or, watch their student consistently to make sure they're not doing it. Another parent told me, well, my student's kind of, tricky that way. Every time I walk over, he quickly, goes back to what he's supposed to be doing. So we're almost, I don't know what we can do to fix that. Yes, parents are supposed to be monitoring them. Unfortunately, we don't always have that support.
Yeah, and by monitoring those, sometimes we can't expect them to be behind them every second of the day. And sometimes whenever you're having that conversation with a parent, you can't have it from the side of, yes, you need to be behind them every second of the day, but you can say, hey, I saw this behavior, it happened, now how do we address it after it happened? And it's not necessarily you standing there, it's by, okay, whenever your student, if we were having this conversation at a brick and mortar school, I would be telling you about a misbehavior, and I don't expect you to go into the classroom every day and stand behind your student, but I do expect there to be some consequences at home with what happens to the students. So so it's not necessarily expecting them to be there, but it is expecting there to be some consequences at home. Anybody else want to take the mic on these?
Hi, hello, John. Kind of just to answer the second question here about what we can do to address this once it's recognized. Something I kind of try to do is, like, when I notice something in a para, is like I'll pull a student into like a breakout room, and I'll just I'll tell them what I can see, and I kind of try to get them to get in the mindset that if they were in like a brick and mortar school, would you be able to do these kind of things? And most of the time, 99% of the time, their answer is no. So it's trying to get them into the mindset, like, even though this is cyber school, it's school, so you can't really be doing these things. And I try to like relate to them. Like, I understand that, it's very tempting that, these things are out there for you, but you try to explain to them, like, this is real school. Like, you're in school from 8 o'clock to 4 o'clock, If you want to do some of those things outside of school, you want to look up games, you want to go on YouTube, hey, that's fine, but when you're in school, yeah, it's real, you're here, like, that's your job, I think kind of like what Nicole was saying was, I think the biggest barrier I found is that some of our students are home by themselves, they don't really have someone there to monitor them. So that just increases the temptation, to do these other things. They don't really have someone there to sort of to be their parent. Sometimes I think we are kind of the parent in some aspects, and sometimes it's really not their fault, because parent is working, so that makes, I think it's a really big barrier that it's hard for us to break down, so to speak. So that's just something that I try to do as far as addressing it once I see it, is kind of pull them into a breakout room, to say, I see you doing on this website blah 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 blah, and then just try to put the ball in their court, say, like, if you were in a brick and mortar school, would you be able to do these kind of behaviors, and just kind of get them to realize, like, what they're doing is not acceptable.
Yeah, or even having a breakout room, like I was just thinking is set up invite them to a session at 8 o'clock in the morning sometime, and say that whenever they come in for that 8 o'clock session, say, hey, I see you're having trouble focusing on the highlight lesson or the web page that we want you to have open. So why don't you open up Chrome and open up one tab and have it on highlights, just so I know that you know what I'm talking about whenever we're doing this. And once they have it open, say, okay, I see that you're able to do this. You're able to open it up to the one tab that I want you to have open. If you start to struggle again, we can meet again at 8 o'clock in the morning. And we can practice this again, and then let them go. So it's like a 2-second meeting you have with the student. Well, not really 2 seconds, but with technology, it might be like 5 minutes. A 5-minute meeting you have with a student, you let them go, and you say, hey, we need to meet again. We can do this. So if you're having trouble with this issue, we can meet again. I'd be glad to see you again at 8 o'clock in the morning. You can say you'll be glad to see them. You might not actually be glad to see them, but they probably don't want to see you at 8 in the morning. Yeah, Lou, go ahead.
It just, as I've been thinking through this, and my level of personal frustration has dramatically increased as I'm getting complaints from students because so-and-so sent them a message through Google Hangouts and they felt bullied and all of that. I guess what it really boils down to is Hapara has given us access to information that we never had before. Maybe all this stuff was going on before, but we just didn't know. And now, of course, we never gave them a tool to have easy instant message access to each other like they have now. But I think for me and my own personal happiness, I think I need to step away from the watchdog spying on them Hapara side and just really focus on whether they're engaged in class or not engaged in class. I brought back my MIA room. I don't even open Hapara anymore. And if they're engaged in my class, good. If they're not engaged in my class, they go in the MIA room, and then if they're in there for too long, I'm going to contact them and say, hey, this is unacceptable. What's going on? What are you doing during class? I can't be watching them Facebook message each other anymore, and had a student this week that was searching animated porn. I just can't do it anymore. It's just way too much information. If they're participating and engaging in class, great. If they're not, I'll contact them, and quite frankly, what they're doing on other areas of their computer, it's just too much. It's just wrecking me, and it's turning me into a very upset person constantly.
Right, and you want to, your first priority is that engagement, and if the students are engaged, then that's fine. That's what we're looking for. If they're not engaged, that might be when you start to look at those other patterns that they have. Laurie, what were you going to say?
I just wanted to share something that I started to do last year with my students who seem to kind of have the same behavioral issue over and over again. We take data and we use data to guide our instruction. I was also using data to guide my behavioral problems. So I would actually keep a record of how many times the student displayed that negative behavior, and then I would put some things in place to try to extinguish that behavior. And then I would share with the student, oh, look how you did this 10 times last week, but you only did it 2 times this week. And I think helping the student see their part and their role in reducing those behaviors really helps them to start taking action with that and reducing those poor behaviors.
Yeah, absolutely. Celebrate those successes, even if the behavior is continuing, but it's moving in the right direction. Celebrate that. We need to see that it moving in the right direction. All right. So C, course failure. I think this is the one that we probably have the most data on. What can we do to recognize it? What can we do to address this one once it's recognized? And what resources do we have for this one, or do we need? Go ahead, use chat, whiteboard, or the mic.
Hey, John, this is Nicole Manley. So, I mean, all of this goes hand in hand. The biggest thing is attendance, and then the behavior and the lack of engagement. I have kids who are, failing math because they're not coming to class, or they're not participating, they're not paying attention, they're not doing their assignments, and then, I have parents calling me telling me that their students need extra help. And I'm finding that the biggest hurdle I have this year is that these kids aren't talking to me. They're not asking for help. I am begging these kids in class every single day. Does everyone understand? Does anybody want me to re-explain anything? I'll go over it 100 times if you want me to, and then I hear crickets. And it's like this every single day. And then, one day I get that great day where someone asks a question and I'm jumping up and down in my chair, almost knocking over, my coffee and my computer, because it's like, hallelujah, someone's finally talking to me. But this is my biggest hurdle. And then I'm getting these calls from parents saying, my student doesn't understand, why aren't you helping them? And I say to them on the phone, I promise you I'm trying, but I can't talk to a brick wall. I can't help myself. I need that back and forth. The students aren't doing, or some students aren't doing, or are putting up their end of the bargain here, and that's my biggest hurdle here. So all of this goes together. Why are my students failing? Because they're not participating. They're not coming to class. How can they take these assessments if they're not in class when I teach it? So this is my big frustration right now.
And a lot of that is buying those times whenever people do. Like you said that you were jumping up and down out of your seat. Yeah, celebrate those times, encourage more of it, and find those positives and encourage students to expand on that. With PLC time coming up, that'll be a time whenever you'll be able to maybe identify some of those students and in a smaller group be able to pull out of them what they need. So sixth, seventh, and eighth graders aren't the best voices for themselves a lot of times, and sometimes we need to pull that information out of them, and we need to be prepared to do that. Any other comments?
Hi, this is Amy. I think a problem with this year is that every single day is scheduled for us. Like yesterday we taught a lesson in math and I need 5 days to teach. We taught about 10 different concepts in 90 minutes and we assumed that they already knew how to do adding and subtracting integers. We did a whole unit on that last year. And instead of having the opportunity to say, okay, let's do this again next class, it's nope, it's the next day, and we have to do this lesson on this day because day 5 is coming up. And not having that flexibility this year to, as we advertise on our commercials, individualize. I just don't think that PLP time is just going to be what we need. I think we need more freedom to, if I need to take a week on this lesson or take a day to pull this part of this lesson and teach that. I think that has a big thing with a lot of failures this year too, because we're pushing ahead. We're pushing ahead because we're staying on this schedule, and I just don't feel like that's benefiting the kids at all.
Right, and that's a good reminder. The systems didn't work the way that we planned them to, and that's a good reminder to fill out that survey if you have not done so already on the schedule. Good, Steph.
I just wanted to kind of piggyback off of that. Like, with last year, we could have like a review before a test. It wasn't just, lesson 14 and then jump right into a unit test. We had a chance to go back and say, oh, remember what I taught back in lesson 1? Which last year we taught every single day. So lesson 1 might have only been, 5-10 days ago. Now it's like 15-20 days ago that I taught lesson 1, and now I'm asking them to take a test on something that was back at the beginning of the month. So I think, I don't know, just like the same idea, this day 5, always have a test on a day 5, it doesn't give us any chance to catch up and do any sort of review.
Yeah. So yeah, this schedule is definitely is definitely a struggle, and that's what the leadership team is looking into that. If that's why they sent out that survey. So make sure you do fill out the one that came from Bridget, I think last week, and let your voice be heard. So on the board here, I feel like our environment, course failure, and behavior go hand in hand. Absolutely. There's a significant failure in a part of the curriculum in history, at least. That is much less engaging than last year, trying to cover 2 lessons of content coupled with, yep, the schedule issue. Make sure your voice is heard there with the survey. The kids are failing MIH to them because it's boring to them. 90 minutes is tough, yes. And like I said, one of the things that I have planned for next PD is filling in 90 minutes. I'm wondering, though, if that's going to be more addressed to the high school at that point if we change our schedule here at the middle school. And that's fine. It's going to be those sessions are going to be open up to everyone. I can address that to the high school. We're failing our middle schools of getting kids to like school. All right, so find ways to make them like school is something we need to do with that 90 minutes. It's tough with 90 minutes, I know. All right, so moving forward here, I know it's about 10:17, and we said this would be over by 10:45. Not much work. We're about at the end here. Dr. Belfont, who was featured in the video, identified action steps to be taken, and these are the list here. Recognize good attendance regularly through public acknowledgement and social reward, so that recognizes someone who's, boy, Heidi, you're in class every day. First person I was picking on you for not being here. We'll do the opposite. Boy, Heidi, you're always one of the first people in class. I love seeing your face in class so early every day. So recognizing that attendance early on. Separating attendance from course performance. Rather than lowering grades if students miss a certain number of days, structuring a way for students to make up assignments. Providing high engagement activities that provide avenues for short-term student success and positively recognizing asymmetrical skill levels. Getting extra help, such as after-school tutoring, right? Focusing on what they need for immediate success rather than exclusive on building general skills. Acknowledging the course grades that are more predictive of eventual success than test scores, and so focusing on academic improvement efforts on raising course performance, not improving standardized test scores. Identifying trends. When a student drops from B to a C or a student gets his or her first behavioral referral, respond early, and don't just recognize but intervene. So what you guys are going to do, and let me grab this app, share it with you for a second. Is you guys are going to work as a team to go through these different things. All right, so you'll have a Google form that looks like this. Just what grade, and you'll do one per team, so you see you don't have a name there. So you'll work together with your team, select your team there, and then you'll go through each of these. Recognize good attendance regularly through public acknowledgement, social reward. How is your team doing in this area from a 1 through a 5? What can your team do to address this area? And what, if any, resources do you need? So maybe you gave it a 1, recognize good attendance early. What resources do we need? We need an accurate attendance report. But that doesn't mean you can't do anything. Until then, you could say we could keep personal attendance records and discuss at PLC. So that's what you'll do. You'll go through and do that for each of those areas that Dr. Belfont mentioned. I think I had a typo, and I meant to, predictive. I meant to change that this morning, and I got caught up with something else, and I didn't. But go ahead and fill out the survey and hit submit. So that's what you'll be doing during the next 45 minutes or so. And you'll be working with your team on that. Also, I want you to identify at least one at-risk student for each member of your team. So if you have a 4-person team, I want you to go through that and identify like one student who you say, okay, this student looks like he might be an at-risk student whenever we look at the ABCs. And so you'll identify 4 of them and assign 1 to each member of your team. Or if you have a 6-member team, you'll identify 6. and so forth. And then this afternoon, whenever we get to this part of the schedule here, whenever we get to teachers take action steps from morning meeting right here, that's what you'll do. You'll call that student who was identified, and you'll make a phone call to that student and just encourage the student. So tell them that you're concerned, that you're looking out for them. So after lunch, you will take an action step with the student you identified. Call the student, encourage the student, listen to the needs of the student, but don't stop today. I want you to adopt the student. Be an advocate for the student. Picture yourself in the role of Miss Miller from the end of that video where she was hugging Marina and just saying, "Yay, I'm so happy for you." And think of how excited she was when Maria accepted her offer. You could be the Miss Miller to that one student. And don't just say, "Okay, I tried calling. I'm done. I tried calling." Call back day after day after day. Not necessarily every day, but I know that last year I asked the math teachers to send me a list of every math teacher to send me one student. So I had like 18 students who I would call maybe every other week. I'd call each of them. And they were expecting that phone call from Mr. Thomas, and they were hard to get a hold of at first, but eventually I found that right number. I knew how to get a hold of them. I knew when to get a hold of them for those like adopted students. So don't just say, "Okay, I tried once, pass this student on." I know you can't do this for every student, but you could do it for one student. So that's what we're looking for today. Go ahead, Nicole.
Hey, so I really do like this idea, but sometimes, especially with some of the heated ways that some people have been feeling, the one thing I just want to do is just acknowledge the fact that everybody has been making phone calls and sending emails and trying their best to contact these kids and keep everybody where they need to be. So for everybody who has been doing this from day one, I just want to kind of acknowledge that first, and then say this is going to be like an extra step, okay? Because I don't want anybody to think that anybody else thinks that they're not already doing this, because everyone is exhausting themselves constantly trying to get these kids and trying to email and phone call. My team does it every single week. We email, we phone call, then we email again, and then we phone call again, then we email again, then we phone call again. And everyone is trying so hard to reach these students, and some of us are just not getting the results that we want you to see. Some are doing it twice a day, in sessions, things like that. So like I said, I just wanted to acknowledge everybody and their hard work.
Right, and it is happening. You guys are calling. A lot of times, though, it's hard to know where to start. And I'm just giving you just start with this one student for each team, and kind of adopt that student and work with that student. And it doesn't have to be every day. Like I said, maybe day 5. Maybe day 5, you set aside a half an hour every day 5 to work with that one student, or 20 minutes every day 5 to work with that one student. And I built time in for today. For this, I have time built in for after lunch for you to do that with that one student. So work with your team, identify that one student, adopt that student, be that Miss Miller for that one student, and again, start somewhere. Yeah, it's more effective to email. You could make a difference for 66 students during that time, or one student, but which is going to have the greater impact, the phone call or the emails to the 66 students? Say do both. I know there's a time crunch. I'm not asking you to do it for everybody to do it for 5 students. Asking everyone to do it for one student. That's it. So go ahead and you can either create a breakout room in here, or you can meet in your team's PLC room. But here is the link to that Google form, and I will put it again in chat, or not again because I haven't put it in chat yet, but I will put it in chat here for you. And one person from your team, that's all you need to fill out that Google form. Yeah, I would love to have a structured escalation process to follow. That's a great thing to bring up with your lead teacher and to discuss at the next lead teacher meeting. All right, this afternoon, really this is time. It's a text-dependent analysis and close reading jigsaw activity. Those of you who are in English probably know all about text-dependent analysis. I know Angela had a text-dependent analysis workshop for you guys last year, so any returning English person is an expert on this. Angela is also going to offer a text-dependent analysis and close reading workshop at the December PD. So this is more of just an overview. It includes what you're going to do is you're going to watch some videos put together by the Pennsylvania Department of Education, just to give you a general overview of what text-dependent analysis and close reading looks like. There are several videos that the PDE has put out there. I don't want you guys to all watch I don't want each of you to watch all of them because that would probably drive you crazy. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to have each of you watch 2 of them. Everyone will watch the introduction to what text-dependent analysis is, and then everyone will watch one other video. Then you'll come together as a team and basically summarize the video. What's the main idea of the video? What were some things in the video that you found interesting? So the way we're going to do this is, well, an overview, blah, blah, blah. That I think is just what I explained. Everyone will watch this first one here. So let me get my pointer here. Everyone is going to watch this one. So you can click on that link and watch that one. Science will watch this one. English will watch this one. History will watch this one. And then if you're on a team and you don't fall into any of those categories, you can watch this one. Electives. You guys can divide that up however you want. Same as, yeah, I don't want every elective to watch the other one because then you'll get together as your elective group and say, what was your video about? Oh, it was about that. That's what my video was about. Surprise, surprise. So the elective team, if you could just work amongst yourselves to determine who wants to watch the other videos, that's fine. And if your team is not there, well, you can discuss the 2 from the half of your team that is there. Just to give you an overview of what it is and some of the aspects of it. Any questions on how this is going to work? Do the links work for you guys? All right, good. So that's it. This is actually my last slide for this presentation. So I really just, I don't have any formal questions for the group. It's just really watch a video, take notes on it, and come back to your group. You can either, again, meet in a breakout room here if you want to, and if you need some moderator privileges for your breakout group, raise your hand. I can do that. Or you can meet back in your in the room that you were meeting in earlier today. So that's it. Go ahead, watch your videos, and have your discussion.